Fourth Avenue to Techwood Drive, O'Leary to Key. It's WreckTalk.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to America. Happy birthday to you. That's right. If for some reason you're a snaggletooth Brit, enjoy having to work today. The rest of us will be taking the day off, relaxing, and enjoying our victory. Speaking of victories, tonight, 8 p.m., Squidtard is coming over to the WreckTalk channel to play a little NCAA 25. Georgia Tech versus Tennessee. You're not going to want to miss that. It's going to be a one-sided pounding, and I'm swinging the hammer. But that's not the topic of today's video. I thought, hey, why don't we preview some ACC teams? And I was talking to a Syracuse fan earlier in the week. So today, we're going to be previewing the Syracuse Orange. Now, I'm going to admit something. I don't often say a ton of nice things about teams. Maybe that's true or not. But I like Syracuse. I like Orange and the dark blue or navy or whatever they're calling it. Like, I like Virginia's uniforms. I like Syracuse uniforms. And look, no one, and I mean no one outside of Syracuse, New York, had Syracuse going 10-3. Now, there were some indicators. They had an absolutely monster portal class. They took Kyle McCord from Ohio State, who ended up being the best quarterback that they've ever had. And I do realize Donovan McNabb was there. For a single season, Kyle McCord's the best quarterback that has ever played at Syracuse. So they would go 10-3 last year. Let's look back at what they did last year. Let's give them their flowers here. They had losses to Stanford, Pitt, and Boston College. The Stanford loss, kind of embarrassing. They did take that at home. But look, 99% of teams are going to stumble and lose to someone they shouldn't in college football. It just is what it is. Big win against Miami. Something Georgia Tech and Syracuse can celebrate, even though, look, Syracuse beat Georgia Tech, but Syracuse knocks Miami out of an ACC title berth, giving an infinite drought for Miami in ACC title wins. I think they only made one appearance. That was when Mark Richt was the coach, but huge win for Syracuse there. They get a bowl win in the Holiday Bowl against Washington State. Now, offensively, second to none. 467 yards a game. That's fifth nationally. I'm talking about total offense, second in the ACC. Passing yards, averaging 370 yards a game last year. First in the country, first in the ACC. I don't think that number is right, by the way. I think I wrote down the wrong number. But they were first nationally, first in the ACC. Different story with the rush offense last year, averaging just under 100 yards a game, 125th nationally, 15th in the ACC. Let's go look at the defensive side of the ball. Also a different story from their passing offense. They were giving up 377 yards a game, 69th nationally, 12th in the ACC, giving up 227 yards through the air, 82nd nationally, 9th in conference, and rushing for about 150 yards a game, 69th nationally, 13th in the ACC. Now, I said Kyle McCord's the best quarterback Syracuse has ever had, and you could argue over a career. Obviously, Donovan McNabb had a longer career. That was a different time when you didn't just transfer every time that you changed socks. 4,779 yards, 12 interceptions on 34 touchdowns, led the country in passing yards. I think he was fifth in the country in passing touchdowns. That is a Syracuse record, by the way. No one's thrown for more yards in a single season than Kyle McCord did last year. In fact, even though he only played 1 year, he's top 10 in career passing yards for Syracuse, eighth. He's eighth for a career. I don't know why that was so friggin' hard for me to say. No one's thrown for more touchdowns in a single season than Kyle McCord did last year. In fact, he's seventh in career touchdown numbers for Syracuse. Now, as far as offensive production, he also had, is it Allen Quint Allen. Quint Allen averaged for just under 80 yards a game. Did have a 1,000-yard season, though. 8th in conference, 16 touchdowns. And you just had some monster numbers at wide receiver. Syracuse was loaded wide receiver and quarterback last year. Call it what it is. Jackson Meeks, another 1,000-plus yards through the air there. That was 26 in the country. There's only 25 wide receivers in the country that had more receiving yards than Jackson Meeks. And I might butcher some of these names. All right, give me a break. All right, I'm a redneck from Georgia. Trebor Penna, 941 yards, 9 touchdowns, and Aronde Gadsden at the tight end for another 934 yards and 7 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, Justin Barron, I think he's with the Cowboys now, 93 total tackles, 2 sacks, and Jaden Bellamy, 2 interceptions, one taken back for a touchdown. There you go. Now that's the good news. What's the bad news? None of those guys are playing for Syracuse this year. Syracuse had the benefit of having a very light schedule, easy schedule last year. And that's not me taking anything away from Syracuse, because no one was talking about that before the season. Like, hey, Syracuse has an easier schedule. You know, watch out for them to rattle off 10 wins. No one was saying that. So that's not me downing Syracuse. But you had an easier schedule last year, much tougher schedule this year. And no one who was productive for you last year, and there could be a few, but for all intents and purposes, you're losing every bit of production you had on both sides of the ball. Let me put that in a number for you. You are losing 8,696 yards of offensive production. Basically, all your offensive production is gone out the door. 50 touchdowns are not returning for you in the 2026 season or 2025. What are we calling this? Anyways, sorry, it's July 4th. I'm not thinking all that straight. I'm happy for America's birthday, baby. Absolute killer. Pina enters the portal, going to Penn State, and boy, could you use him. The only wide receiver with like more than 200 yards of receiving that is returning for you. What is that cat's name? Daryl Gill Jr. So you only have one receiver with any sort of in-game experience returning for you, which is killer. You lose what, your top 6 tacklers on defense, and it was a defense that was suspect anyways. So you look at all that and you say, okay, what do you have coming in? You're not going to replace what's leaving on offense. You're just not going to replace that. What do you have that makes you think that Syracuse doesn't take a big step back this year, especially with a harder schedule? You do bring in 2 quarterbacks in the transfer portal, Ricky Collins out of LSU and Steve, Angeli out of Notre Dame. Both of them are backups. None played meaningful downs as far as I can tell in the season. And look, I could be wrong about some of this. Put in the comments why I'm wrong. I'm wrong all the time. Wide receiver, you bring in Jonte Cook, who played at Texas, got arrested twice in the span of 2 weeks, entered the portal. And I don't think he has 300 yards receiving in a career yet. Goes to Washington, leaves a few months later to come to Syracuse. So, you know, I don't think you can expect much from him. Maybe he pops off. Maybe Fran Brown can work some magic like he did last year. But look, the kids that were coming in out of Ohio State were proven commodities. You don't have anything like that returning for Syracuse this year. You also bring in Tyshawn Russell out of South Carolina, another guy, backup role, didn't play meaningful downs. We'll see what you can do with him. Your top-rated receiver in this class is Darian Williams, homegrown kid out of Syracuse, New York. I don't know. My intuition says that the guy who steps up in the wide receiver room for the Orange this year is probably going to be a true freshman, probably going to be a kid that you recruited. Now, how does your recruiting class look for last year? Just looking at 247 on your own Syracuse 247 site, 53rd ranked recruiting class, which is bad, not good. although, look, you're not going to look to true freshmen to step up year one. I did say I think in the wide receiver room, just because you're missing so much, you're losing so much, someone who's a freshman will step up. But in general, your recruiting class last year doesn't say a ton about how you're going to play this year. Your portal class might, though. 45th ranked portal class. So not great there either. Coming off the heels of a monster portal class that you had last year. So what does that mean? We're going to go through your schedule here. I think Syracuse takes a step back. And look, that is also not crapping on Syracuse. I don't think Syracuse fans expect them to follow up with a 10-win season this year when you lose 50 touchdowns and nearly 9,000 yards of production, right? I think the goal, and you Syracuse guys might get mad. I think the goal for you, first and foremost, you need to make a bowl. I don't think you can be upset with winning 7 games this year with everything that you've lost. So let's pull up the Syracuse 2025 football schedule. All right. So all of these websites have 2,000 ads, which make me great. The world is run by advertisers and lawyers, if you didn't know that. You open up with Tennessee. Now, I tend to think Tennessee takes a step back this year as well. A lot of offseason nonsense with them, with Nico transferring, Arkansas threatening to sue his brother. He goes to UCLA, his family's, basically being his agent, which means he has an idiot for an agent. But you open up, I think this is kind of a sneaky, really interesting game week one. Tennessee loses a lot. Syracuse loses a lot. It's a neutral site game in my hometown, baby. This Mercedes-Benz is 6 miles from where I'm sitting right now. It's going to be a noon game, ABC and ESPN Plus. However, Syracuse loses way more than Tennessee does. Top to bottom, Tennessee is undoubtedly a more talented team. But hey, the most talented team doesn't always win. I just think it's a bit too much for you. I think you drop to Tennessee week one. Now, you do get UConn week 2. Didn't they beat Wake Forest last year? Syracuse ain't no Wake Forest, though. Wake Forest definitely one of the most down teams in the ACC. You get them at home. And let me give you some more flowers. I'm not calling it the JMA Wireless Dome. It's a Carrier Dome. I like the Carrier Dome. It's a nice stadium. I would go back there. Nice venue. Get some air conditioning. Nice for a guy sitting in the 98 degree heat with 80% humidity like me. And look, Carrier Dome's a tough place to play. I was up there. It's loud. Ton of respect for Carrier Dome. Anyways, I think you lose to Tennessee, get a win over UConn. No need to even talk about Colgate. If you can't beat Colgate, just forfeit the rest of your games. There's no point in even playing them. But then you have to go on the road to Clemson. And look, there's a lot of people. Most people are going to have Clemson to win the ACC this year. They're the opposite tail. They might return more production than anyone in the ACC this year. They got a Heisman hopeful at quarterback. Clemson's a tough team. You're not beating them on the road in Death Valley. So through your first 4 games, I got you going 2-2 with wins over UConn and Colgate. You host Duke at home. Duke loses a lot as well. Both quarterbacks in the portal. They're also coming off the heels. Did they win 10 games last year? My God, I think they did. They won 9 or 10. They won more than anyone else thought they would. Manny Diaz has got something cooking at Duke. And shout out to Duke for losing Mike Elko to Texas A&M, who is, in my opinion, a fantastic coach. Bringing in a retread ACC coach and making something of it. So this, I think, is the game that is going to tell us what Syracuse has this year. I think you've got to be able to take care of Duke, right? You got to be able to take care of Duke. You get them at home. if this was in North Carolina, I would probably pick Duke, but I'm going to give you the win over Duke here, September 27th. That'll give you your third win here. The problem with your schedule, and you might have the hardest schedule in the ACC, you got one of the harder schedules in the ACC this year, is past this, you have a brutal gauntlet going forward. So let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got you going 3. I got you winning 3 of your first 5 games. Then you go on the road to a team that made an ACC title last year. I don't see you beating SMU. SMU is another team that made a fool out of Wreck last year. I don't think they also had the benefit of a really easy schedule last year, but I just don't see it going on the road and beating SMU. And I hope I'm wrong. I would love for Syracuse to beat the dog shit out of SMU in this game. But you're not going to, I don't see you getting a win on the road at SMU. So they'll give you your third loss of the season. Luckily, you get a bye and you get to host Pitt. Now, did we all laugh at Pitt last year? Yes. It was hilarious for them to win, 6 or 7 games in a row and then lose 6 or 7 games in a row. But you got to look at why that was. They lost their starting quarterback, Holstein, who I believe is coming back this year. I tend to like Narduzzi. I think Narduzzi's a decent coach. Again, Pitt is just another team that's returning more. I mean, had Syracuse lost Kyle McCord last year, I imagine they might have suffered a similar fate. I've got you taking a loss at home for homecoming to Pitt. Now, here's another game that I think will tell us a lot about Syracuse and what's going to happen, what kind of team they are. You host Georgia Tech, or no, you don't. Georgia Tech hosts you here after a tough little stretch here with SMU and Pitt. It's going to be tough for me to pick this because I'm a homer, and if I pick Tech, you're going to call me a homer. Here's the thing: Georgia Tech returns one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. Georgia Tech returns one of the best running backs in the ACC, and Jamal Haynes. Georgia Tech's backup quarterback is better than anything Syracuse has in their quarterback room currently, in my opinion. Georgia Tech does lose Eric Singleton Jr., who was the top wide receiver in the portal, but they bring in Eric Rivers, who was like the second best wide receiver in the portal. Defensively, Georgia Tech has a new DC. They have a ton of question marks on the defensive line and in defense, I think, in general. But you can call me a homer. You're going to take a loss at Bobby Dodd here. Georgia Tech just returns too much. I do think Georgia Tech top to bottom is a more talented team. And if you were to just take a random poll of people that aren't fans of either one of these teams, I think the majority of them are going to pick Georgia Tech. However, this is a sneaky game for Tech. I could also see Tech dropping this. I'd have to look at who Tech has. Who does Tech have before this? Are you kidding me? Before Syracuse, we've got Duke and Virginia Tech. So yeah, Tech has a tougher stretch going into that. That's a game that could sneak up on Tech. Then you get North Carolina. I think North Carolina is going to be a disaster this year. I think Bill Belichick is one of the stupidest hires that I've ever seen made. Yeah, but look at all the NFL stuff, and it was so great, and all the Super Bowls. Right. NFL and college have zero to do with each other other than they have similar rules and they play what they propose to be the same game. He's got a girlfriend that's running his life. He's 2,000% pussy whip. She's already a massive problem for them. They've lost a ton of talent from their team. I'll tell you how bad I think North Carolina is going to be. I'm not even sure Bill Belichick will be the coach by the time you play them October 31st. You get them on Halloween, Friday on a Halloween night. Man, call me Jack the Ripper. You're going to tear up North Carolina. Then you go on the road, you play Miami. Now, I know you beat Miami last year. Talent-wise, it's not close. Miami does replace what they lose, offensively at least. with some pretty good pieces. Despite what I think of Carson Beck and the fact that he looks like a reptilian idiot, he's a pretty good quarterback. Defensively, Miami brings in a new DC that should be able to turn things around. I got you taking 4 in a row here losses. I think you're going to lose on the road at Miami. So what do we got you this far? Losing to Tennessee, beating UConn, beating Colgate, losing to Clemson, beating Duke, losing. So I got you losing 5 in a row here. You get a bye. Then you go on the road to Notre Dame. People are going to call me crazy. I think you lose 5 in a row, rest up, scheme things up on your bye. I'm going to have you upset Notre Dame here in Indiana after a 5-game losing streak. So you get them at 3:30. I think Notre Dame could be a little bit beat up here. Let's look at who they've got. Oh, please advertise things to me. Yes, I'm definitely going to click and buy that. Notre Dame has a brutal schedule. They open up with Miami, Texas, Purdue, at Arkansas, Boise State, NC State, USC, by Boston College, Navy, Pitt. I just think they could be beat up here. They could be sitting on a playoff berth here, maybe looking a little ahead, and I think you catch them sleeping on the road. Boston College, team that beat you last year, you get them at home. I don't know much about Boston College. Again, respect to the Carrier Dome. It's a tough place to play. I'm going to give you, after a 5-game losing streak, I'm going to say you beat Boston College as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins. I got you going 5-7 this year. Now, I know you're going to kill me for that, but just look at the schedule. Consider everything you're losing. Find me 6 wins on here. Find me 6 wins. Looking at the schedule, if you were to win 7 games of this, that means that you're probably finding a way to beat Tennessee or Clemson. And then then you got to find a way to beat SMU, Miami, Notre Dame. You got to win like 2 of those. I just don't see it. So let me know what you think. If you're a Syracuse fan, what do you think of this? If you're not, it's 5-7 fair. Do you think they slide back that far, losing 5 more? Or why am I always twisted? Going from 10 wins to 5. Let me know in the comments. Hope you have a great 4th of July. Happy birthday, America. Tune in tonight, 8 p.m. to see me absolutely pound squid into the ground and squeeze some orange juice. Y'all have a good one.